Okay, this video is going to serve as a very brief intro to getting started in AutoCAD 2022 English. The icon looks like this big red A, so we're going to click on that and launch it. Alright, you most likely won't see, the first time you launch it, won't see a ton of files here, but we're just going to go over here and click New. And that launches into our workspace. So we have several types of workspaces in here. This is just the model space for now. Paper space has to do with printing and things like that, so we'll ignore that for now. So just a quick overview of the layout. We have the ribbon up here where we can kind of change a few different things. Settings or tools are all up here. For now, we're just going to stay on the home ribbon. 90% of the time you're working in the software, that's what you're going to stay with. Within the home ribbon, we have the draw toolbar, which we'll talk about line and circle here in a minute, and probably rectangle. Those are probably the most common tools you're going to find in there. And in the next video, we'll be talking about some items in the modify toolbar. And then we have annotation, which is for like dimensions and things like that. The layer properties toolbar here, we'll be talking about that in the next video. And then the properties toolbar is another one we use. We're going to ignore block for now, groups, utilities, clipboard, all those we're going to ignore just for now. So that's our toolbars and the ribbon up here. Here we can, move between files, just like we can move between tabs in like a web browser. So for now we're working in drawing 1. And then if we go down to the lower right, most importantly, or quite importantly I should say, we have a few different settings down here, and these are kind of like on and off switches for a few different things. So we want to make sure we're in the model space, so that should almost always say model. Unless we're doing some really difficult printing where we have to be real precise with our printing. Otherwise, we also have our grid mode, so anything that's kind of a brighter blue color means that it's switched on here. And if we wanted to say turn the grid off, I could click that and you see it goes gray, and our grid has disappeared. So I like to leave the grid on for demonstration purposes, but when I'm personally working in AutoCAD, I like to turn the grid off. Moving down the line, we have snap mode. I almost never use that. That will actually make your cursor kind of click to things when you're trying to lay down stuff. So you can see as I'm trying to draw a line here, it's literally snapping to the grid. We don't want that at all. Ortho mode, that actually makes it so you can only draw a vertical or horizontal object line, etc. Turned on is polar tracking. Basically what that is when I click, it's going to give me whatever angle I set this to. So you can see there's a little drop down next to it. Whatever angle I set this to, it'll give me a little green extension on the line as I approach that angle. So watch when I hit 45 degrees here, it'll kind of snap to it. You see it's a little bit magnetic. It's kind of stuck to 45, which is very useful when you're trying to quickly find these simple angles. I like to kind of keep it right around 45, but for our first drawing, we'll actually need it set to 15, 30, 45, 60. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But again, we always want to typically keep that on. We can ignore isometric drafting for now. Showing snapping references, these two boxes, they work together, number one. And number two, they're really helpful to have switched on. I'll explain them in a whole separate video, but for now, keep them switched on. And then the rest of them we can just sort of leave and ignore. But yeah, that's kind of what we want there. All right, so the first two tools I want to talk about are in our draw toolbar. Like I said, we're going to cover line and circle, and I'll probably touch on rectangle as well, because these are all relatively simple tools. So line, if we left click on it, line is a modal tool, meaning that when we start using it, it's like a light switch. We flipped it on, it'll keep going until we turn it off, until it, off. So if I want to draw a line, let's say I want to draw a line that's like 6 inches long at 45 degrees. What I would do is just kind of click wherever I want to start, and I'm going to start moving in the direction of 45 degrees. So there we are. You'll see right now it's telling me my line is 8.8 inches long, but I can type in number 6 and hit enter, and then you can see my line has been drawn at 6 inches. A few other things, we were talking about this tracking stuff down here in the lower right. So if I hover over the end of a line and then I kind of move back, you'll see it'll kind of snap the line to a nice vertical. So it actually makes it really easy to draw things like squares and various intersections and stuff like that. To delete this, I can draw a box around it. I've got a few options. I'm actually going to draw a few different more random lines just to kind of get things going. To end the line tool command, because you see it kind of wants to let go, I'm going to hit escape a few times. Okay. And then I'm going to just throw let's just throw a circle in here with another circle or two kind of embedded inside. I'll explain the circle tool in a minute. So when we're selecting things to delete them, again, if we wanted to get rid of some of our objects here, as they're known, we can either left click and then move to from left to right, and we get this blue box. And again, I'm not dragging my cursor. I've just clicked once, and now it's looking for a second point. When the box is blue, whatever gets selected has to be contained completely in the box. So right now you can see the only 4 things that are contained in the blue box are there's one line toward the top and then that initial triangle that I drew. So if I click on it, you can see I have 4 lines there. If I press the delete key on my keyboard right now, they'll get deleted. If I hit Control Z, that brings them back. Now going the opposite direction, if I left click and then go from right to left, I get a green box. And what the green box does is it will select anything that it's touching. So even if I only touched just barely the corner of that line, you can see it selects it. I find the green box a lot more useful than the blue box. Blue box is really useful when, say you had a situation like this where I want to get rid of these 2 circles and nothing else. It's very easy to just select those 2 circles and delete them out of there rather than accidentally pulling in more objects to that delete box. Alright, so let's get rid of this for now. Alright, so we talked about the line tool. Again, draw a line, tell it how long you want it to be. I don't know, let's say 16 inches, something like that. And then we can keep drawing from there. And then once we're done with it, we can use our best friend, the escape key on our keyboard to end that command. I always like to hit it a few times just to make sure that things are shut down. Alright, let's go to the circle tool now. So under the circle tool, there's a drop down, and there's several different options here. We're going to stick with center radius and center diameter. So I'm going to select center diameter. We're just going to draw some sort of object here. So again, this is measuring in radius right now. So if I wanted a 6-inch diameter circle, I'd have to push 3 for the radius of 3. And there we go. And now I can select that object, and I could grab it by the middle to move it around if I want. Just left click on it in the middle and it'll move. If I wanted to increase or decrease the diameter, I grab any one of the 4 handles at the corner. And if I made a mistake and grabbed that accidentally, I can just hit escape and it'll return it back to its original size before we started stretching it. For lines, it kind of works similar. If I want to move them around, I use the middle handle. Again, just sort of select them and then left click on the middle button, and then if I grab the ends, it'll stretch them and move them whatever way I need them to. I'm just going to hit escape. So that's center radius circle. If I wanted to make another circle real quick, I could hit right click, hit repeat circle. If I hover over the edge, you see I get a marker there. That's because of these snap settings that again we'll go through later. So I can now repeat the circle and I can make bullseye or whatever type of shape I want to make. Relatively simple to do that. Again, kind of a cool thing, if I left click here and I cover just the 2 middle circles in that blue box, I only select those, I could delete them. So now let's switch over to center diameter. now you can see my cursor has to go twice as far. It's also giving me a measurement across the entire diameter of the circle. So if I type in 6, I get a 6-inch diameter circle there. I don't have to type 3. And again, you can see they kind of overlap, or they're the exact same size. You can just position them next to each other. I'm just going to delete that line. So those are the basics of the line and circle tools, and then just the basic navigation here, understanding what the ribbon is and things like that. In the next video, we're going to go over how to set up a template file and how to save.